Okay. All right, everyone. We're going to get started. Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, the members of the press. And I want to thank the individuals that are participating with us today that will be introduced as they step up to speak. First, we have Supervisor Susan Rose, former Supervisor Susan Rose, 2nd District. We have Christine Schwartz. For some reason, I want to say Schwartz because it reminds me of my former boss. With New Beginnings, we have Julie Bowen, who's going to share a personal story with us about this program. We have 1st District Supervisor Dawes Williams and 2nd District Supervisor Greg Hart. This pandemic exacerbated the challenge or created more challenges for those that are experiencing homelessness. We know that homelessness is not a new problem. It is an issue we have been trying to resolve on the Central Coast and throughout communities in our country for decades. However, the pandemic has squeezed our economy and left more Americans jobless, worsening the problem. Today, California is home to the largest number of people experiencing homelessness. More than 160,000 Californians could not afford to keep a roof over their heads in 2020. Back in 2004, before I became a county supervisor or a member of Congress, I was a staffer for then the late county supervisor, Naomi Schwartz, 1st District Supervisor. Even then, homelessness was a crisis that demanded our immediate attention. We are innovators and problem solvers here on the Central Coast, and Naomi, Susan Rose, and I were committed to addressing the issue of homelessness in a new way. I want to tell you that Susan Rose, Supervisor Rose, played a key role in bringing this innovative concept and vision and program to the attention of the Board of Supervisors, the Safe Parking Program, which now serves as a model for programs across the country, slowly but surely being scalable every day more and more. But I also want to recognize the woman, the former county supervisor, who stepped up while we could have put this program in any public parking lot, stepped up because of the immediate location in the region that would be central to serving those experiencing homelessness, sleeping overnight in cars. And as you could imagine, sometimes the better angels in our humanity fail us, and there's always concerns or stereotypes that lead to concerns when we're dealing with individuals who are challenged or find themselves in these uncertain predicaments. Supervisor Schwartz knew that housing this program here in downtown Santa Barbara would be a challenge because some of those perspectives and attitudes. But she stepped up. I fielded all the calls of the neighbors, the concerns, the angst, the anxiety of the unknown. And despite that, she stepped up to suffer the slings and arrows of what would come, and to work with Supervisor Rose, who brought this innovative program forward, to tell people that this was not only morally the right thing to do, but we should give it a chance. And we did. And while there were growing pains early on, Catholic Charities was the original organization leading that, there were some growing pains. And it wasn't until New Horizons, New Beginnings, stepped up that really refined the program to the point where it is now today. a program that's completely refined, scalable, working great. The kinks have been worked out. Christine and her staff have made this program the concept that I think Supervisor Rose envisioned, and she will speak for herself. I mentioned Naomi stepped up. This program has been, by every measure, a resounding success. The Safe Parking Program gave Santa Barbara a safe place to spend the night. Santa Barbarans during trying times, and well as the support they needed to secure stable housing. As I mentioned earlier, it has since spread throughout the Central Coast. Lompoc recently approved the Safe Parking Program. Los Angeles, where nearly 25% of the homeless population is living out of their cars, followed suit and implemented their own program in 2014. Today, there are safe programs across the country helping drive down vehicular homelessness and putting people in homes, or providing a chance so that people can transition into permanent housing. I know Naomi would be proud to see that the Safe Parking Program that Supervisor Rose brought forward has given thousands of Americans experiencing homelessness a safe place to sleep and a chance to get back on their feet. I'm deeply proud to announce again that I'm introducing this legislation, which is named after Supervisor Naomi Schwartz, to honor her legacy as one of the original champions in collaboration with Supervisor Rose of this important program. This is a bipartisan bill. Did I say bipartisan? Bipartisan bill, which allows cities and counties to apply for up to $5 million in grant funding, which would be used to implement or expand a safe parking program in their own community. Funds would also be used to provide rehousing assistance for participants, employ staff, and maintain hygiene facilities and restrooms so individuals are afforded dignity. Finally, the bill requires new programs to provide services that help participants move to more stable housing, much like the successful program that now New Beginnings runs here. I'll let Christine and Julie speak to that in a moment. They can tell you of how they really made this program what it is today. No one bill or concept will solve our homelessness challenge, but I'm proud to bring this successful Central Coast program into the national spotlight and help it expand to places across the country. I will keep fighting for federal resources and legislation that tackle homelessness and create more affordable housing opportunities so every American has access to a safe place to call home. Thank you, and now I'll turn it over to my friend, former Supervisor Susan Rose, and the visionary for this important, awesome program. She also serves as an advisory council member on New Beginnings. And again, when you see Susan, you can really see and hear from her personally how this came about. Supervisor Rose?
Am I supposed to have
Here, I gotta give you this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I broke it.
Actually unplugged it. Do we need it?
No, we're okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's now broken.
Actually, no, we're fine. Can I put this on you?
Sure, please do. I don't know how to just stick
Can
it
I
on my
just
cup.
can I
Go
just
ahead.
stick it on you there?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. As you've heard, this is the first site of a safe parking program, so I think it's wonderful that we're doing the press conference here. It, I think, sends a message that how important this was to all of us. So, as you've heard from Congressman Carbajal, my job is to tell you how this all started. It began for me in the early 2000s when I became aware of the homeless problem that existed in our community, a particular unique problem, and that had to do with people living out of their cars, vans, RVs, some form of vehicle. And many of them were driving around at night looking for a place to stay. And in the process, many of them were getting ticketed by the police. And I knew that we had to find an answer and that there must be an answer to that in our community. So I started to look for sites. I can't tell you how many months I spent looking, talking to people, organizations, churches, businesses, and I think Congressman Carbajal referred to that when he was saying how difficult it was when we started here. People did not want to have homeless people parked in their parking lots at night. So I was very frustrated, but I was determined to find an answer. So one night, I'm coming down from our offices, which for those of you who don't know, are on the 4th floor right behind us. And I'm coming down, it's early in the evening, employees have left for the day, and I look out the window and I see a huge empty parking lot. And I realized that the answer was here and had been here all along right in front of me. All those months I had been searching for a location or a site, and it was here. So the very next morning I went to speak to our CEO, and I asked him to create a program that would be something the board could support and would be for safe parking. Within a few months he had brought it to the Board of Supervisors, and all along it was our effort to work with the community and make it a collaboration and to resolve it. And the good news is, as you've already heard, Naomi led the way, the other supervisors, we had the support that we needed to begin this program. After a few months, first it was Catholic Charities, and then later it was New Beginnings, who became our community partner and became the organization we contracted with to make this happen. Fast forward to today, so that was 2004, by the way, when we voted to endorse it and begin the program. Fast forward to today, we have a program that is a success, as you've heard. We have over 150 spaces for individuals in our immediate community. We have about 26 sites, areas like this, and about 1/3 of our homeless population lives in vehicles. I want to say one thing about the way we run it. We run it not just for an overnight parking. The goal has always been to help people get into permanent housing. It's always been what we aim for. In the meanwhile, as you'll hear from Christine, we provide secure services, we provide food when necessary, we have technical assistance if that's needed with the car or perhaps Social Security. All of these support services are there, so we enable our vehicle residents to go forward and to move on and be a success in their lives. We are known throughout the U.S., I think you've heard that, and we've been very successful at replicating the program as we've gotten so much publicity. And I hope Christine will talk about the handbook that we have developed to help other organizations, or other communities, become, to develop a safe parking program. So it's been a success, and it's been a success for people because of people like Christine, and I want to acknowledge her right now and thank her for all that she's done. She's had to work very hard to get funding for many of the aspects of our program. And I do want to acknowledge our Congressman Salud Carbajal, because Salud is building an effort on top of what we've already accomplished here, but we've been missing something. And what we've been missing is that dedicated funding stream that will help our program and programs all over the country get the resources they need to pay for the administration of the work that we do. So I want to thank you all for coming today. I'm very proud of the work that we've accomplished. I know Naomi would be too, as Salud has said, and I hope that there'll be more safe parking programs all over the country, and we can look back and say, yes, it began right here in this parking lot. Thank you. Your next key. All right, wait. I can't see what I'm doing. Can you get it up?
Is it plugged into anything?
Yeah, don't trip. Okay.
It's not plugged into anything?
I don't know, was it? Did you hear it?
Here, Christine, I can take that. And if you wouldn't mind just speaking up. It's hard to have, I can hear.
Do I not get that?
It's not working.
Oh, it's not working. Okay. The microphone's not working. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christine Schwartz, Executive Director of New Beginnings. We operate the Santa Barbara County Safe Parking Program. I am so pleased to be here today on behalf of New Beginnings and our safe parking program to join in the announcement of the first ever federal legislation in support of the vehicular homeless. Today, the Naomi Schwartz Safe Parking Program Act of 2021, a bipartisan bill co-sponsored by Representatives Salud Carbajal and Doug LaMalfa, is a tremendous step forward towards helping the tens of thousands of Americans living in their cars, vans, and RVs across our country. For the past several years, I have visited with Senate and congressional leaders in an effort to bring attention to this overlooked yet steadily increasing population of families and individuals who are falling out of the middle class and into their vehicles on our city streets, in suburban neighborhoods, and industrial parking lots. This issue finally gained momentum once Representative Carbajal joined Congress. Thanks to his commitment and the hard work and enthusiasm of his legislative staff, most especially Shelby Luce, this bill is now being introduced to Congress. If passed, this bill will make it possible for communities across the country to access federal funding to operate safe parking shelters for the first time ever. That is so amazing. Just in the past couple of years since we started tracking queries, we have received requests for technical assistance in starting a safe parking program from over 65 communities in at least a dozen states and in 2 countries. We have sold more than 135 copies of our Safe Parking Program Manual since it was published in July of 2017 by Sage Publishing, and more than 30 of those were to government offices and municipalities across the country. There is clearly a demand for this legislation. We encourage Congress to reflect on the needs of these 65 communities and act now so that everyone can rest a little easier at night, especially if it is in their car in a safe parking lot. Because there is no dedicated funding for the operation of safe parking programs, agencies such as ours must cobble together minimal state, local, and private funds to support the basic operations of safe parking shelters. We fight daily for this population to count and to be counted, and our hope is that this legislation will provide the funding to not only serve the unique needs of the vehicular homeless, but also to collect the data necessary to target resources effectively and help these families and individuals seek shelter and ultimately to transition back into permanent housing. Safe parking programs provide a safe place for people to sleep at night while also providing the critical connection to staff who work with them to obtain housing. As with all housing insecurity, vehicular homelessness is a complex issue, and addressing it requires intensive case management and a successful public-private collaboration amongst all community stakeholders. Our own county is seeing an increase in the number of people living in their cars as a result of the pandemic, yet we continue to struggle to expand our safe parking program throughout Santa Barbara County. Despite the nearly 20-year successful run of our program, like many other cities and towns across the country, we continue to face ongoing resistance to opening additional lots, even though in the last 9 months, safe parking has sheltered more than 300 people, housed more than 70, and provided over $375,000 in rapid rehousing assistance to our clients for rental payments and the purchase of beds, appliances, and other basic household items. What impacts one member of our community impacts us all. We ask only that you give these types of programs a chance. Open your lots to the Safe Parking Program, and if you're a landlord, consider renting to someone who doesn't make 3 times their rent in income or who may have a spotty employment or tenancy history. This last year has been rough for everyone. It's been especially rough for people without somewhere safe to shelter in place. The constant fear of infection, violence, and police interaction has made it very scary for out-of-work teachers, food service employees, home health care workers, veterans, seniors, college students, and others who find themselves for the first time in their lives unable to afford their housing. Safe parking creates that safe place by operating underutilized and empty parking lots at night and repurposing them to meet a critical community need. Quite simply, providing a safe, monitored location where families and individuals can try and get a decent night's sleep. Please urge your elected officials to support this bill so that the entire country can benefit from this incredible and one-of-a-kind program. Once again, my sincere thanks and appreciation to Congressman Carbajal, and most of all, thank you to all of the New Beginnings clients, staff, and volunteers, our supporters and community partners throughout the years, as well as the many organizations throughout the country who have had the courage and willingness to build programs of their own. You have made safe parking what it is today. A little bit of each of you is in this legislation. Thank you all for making Santa Barbara and New Beginnings proud.
Thank you, Christine. And thank you, Supervisor Rose, who's going to go over there because it's really hot over here. Next, we have Julie Bowen, who's going to provide us her own personal testimony and about her experience with the program. It's a real honor to have her come here and share. Julie, if you could share.
Hello, my name is Julie Bowles, and I'm a real estate broker. When my mom got sick, I dropped everything to take care of her. The length of time my mother was ill caused me to not be able to work for a long period of time. The stress of being her caretaker and other personal circumstances in my life also took a toll on my health. I wasn't able to stabilize, and eventually I lost my home of many years. I became homeless for the first time in my life and chose to live in my car. I spent several months parking on streets at night and was absolutely terrified. When you live in your car, you discover all the things that you've taken for granted. Where would I go to the bathroom at night? Where would I charge my phone so that I could look for jobs and housing? How could I ever sleep again for more than a few hours at a time without wondering if someone would break into my car and hurt me? These were the basic questions I asked myself every day. And when these are the challenges you're facing, how are you able to stabilize? I felt like I was in pure survival mode, and that made it impossible to address other areas of my life that would have allowed me to move back into housing. Fortunately, I became connected to New Beginnings and enrolled in their safe parking program. The program provided me with a renewed sense of security and connected to me some of the most wonderful people I have met in my life, and I really mean that. I was finally able to sleep again for more than a few hours at a time. Program staff helped me to apply for a housing voucher, introduced me to health care providers, and encouraged me to take the steps to get my broker's license renewed. After being in the program for a few months, the pandemic erupted. Due to my underlying health conditions, the safe parking team arranged for me to move into a hotel sponsored by the county. After living in the hotel for several months, I was elated to discover that I had been awarded a voucher. I literally could not believe it. The safe parking team helped me identify a beautiful apartment in a historic building in Santa Barbara, provided me with financial assistance so that I could afford my security deposit, and helped me secure items for my home. I'm now focusing on my health, and since I'm fully vaccinated, I'm looking for a new job. I'm so grateful for the Safe Parking Program, and I'm overjoyed that Congressman Carbajal and his team are introducing this bill into Congress. The program gave me hope during one of the darkest periods of my life. Besides providing me with a safe place to park, the program connected me to the services that ultimately addressed my homelessness. I'm here today to tell you that this program really works. It doesn't matter how or why you became homeless, whether you lost your job, lost your home in a natural disaster, struggled with drug or alcohol dependency, or have a mental illness. The Safe Parking team will treat you with great dignity, and they will get a result. Whatever the circumstances are that cause your life to implode, it's not just one thing. It's a series of circumstances, and by the time it happens, you are so shell-shocked, and you can become completely isolated from any support system in your life. The Safe Parking Program provided me with a series of gradual steps that have allowed me to re-enter the world and have a safe place from which to project the rest of my life. I appreciate everyone who has been involved from the program's inception. I want to thank New Beginnings and Congressman Carbajal's office for inviting me here today to share my story. I hope more funding opens up for the program so more people like me can change their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for sharing your experience and providing us your testimony. Next, I'd like to invite First District Supervisor Das Williams to say a few words.
Well, first I want to thank my predecessor, now Congressman Salud Carbajal, for introducing the Naomi Schwartz Safe Parking Program. And I do this not only as a supervisor, but I do that also as someone who, through my own circumstances, has lived in a vehicle in Santa Barbara. I often field phone calls from folks or emails about people concerned about what they see as the increase in homelessness because the tents and the camps are more visible than ever before. Now I don't try to make a habit of ever being snarky, but there's a part of me who wants to say, you know what? There's a lot more people out there than you are even talking about. And that is because there is a segment of the homeless population that is largely invisible to us from day to day. And that is the hundreds, maybe thousands of people living in their vehicle. And they're invisible because when you live that life, you're trying to be invisible. You're trying to be invisible at night because you're trying not to raise attention to yourself. You're trying not to get at a place where somebody's gonna harass you at night. I remember that feeling of not getting a full night's sleep. And you're also aware of the fact that there's very few places legally where you can park and where you, even if you are not going to cause any problems or be visible, where you can legally go about your life. I want to tell you something about these population because that it defies easy categorization. Some of the residents of vehicles are what you would call chronic homeless, but many are not. Many have jobs. Many blend in by using gyms or their friends' showers to get dressed every day and look, for all purposes, like a normal member of the housed society during the day. But then at night, then you're part of a marginalized group of folks. It's, I think from the example cited, it's important to see that there's increased integration of services in homelessness. Safe parking is a critical piece of that puzzle in ending homelessness in our communities. It provides people a safe place to sleep and connects them with services that are needed to eventually move them on to a permanent shelter. So we know what is needed to do this, right? We have spaces. We need that will that society can help provide us, the will, not just the political class to have the political will, but the society to have a political will, to be YIMBYs, to say yes in my backyard to solutions for homelessness. And then we need funding. We know what the solutions are. We have been able to execute the solutions, but now we need to scale the solutions for the size of the task. And that is what is so important about this legislation. There is not currently any federal funding for these programs. It is only through the investment by the county and larger cities in the South that we've been able to have this successful program here. Mind you, a program that has been replicated all across the state of California. Last year, we served 600 unduplicated people countywide through safe parking, and they were able to house 47 and connect 98 to employment and public benefits. So how can we make that miracle of a better life that happened for them happen for more, and to solve this quagmire of homelessness? This federal funding would be critical to our county in being able to expand those numbers. So I want to thank Congressman Carbajal for adopting this issue, pushing this issue, and using your experience at the county to provide solutions for the country. Thank you so much.
And next and last, we'll have 2nd District Supervisor Greg Hart say a few words, and then I'll close out the program. Supervisor Hart.
Well, I just want to thank Julie for having the courage to tell her personal story about living in her car. That is really important to projecting success for this program, because it personalizes this issue in a way that's really important and really human. There's another event that recently occurred, the new movie that Frances McDormand has called No Man Land, that takes time to tell that story about a person living out of their vehicle. And all of the people who are living in those circumstances have their own unique stories to tell. Their reasons for coming to that place. And New Beginnings offers exactly that, hope and a new beginning, by being organized and being professional and creating a safe environment for people to live and to get the skills and the resources to change their circumstances. This program started right here in this parking lot, and with Salud Carbajal's courage and persistence, there will be national funding available to leverage our experience here in Santa Barbara, the stories of Julie and other people who live in our community and other places across the country, to create more opportunities to expand this incredibly valuable, essential service to more people across this country. We should all be proud about what's been accomplished here. Susan, Naomi's work, Christine's work on a daily basis to expand the program, but we can't be complacent. The numbers of people that are being served are a tiny fraction of what is needed to address the problem. Supervisor Williams articulated that very well. We need to scale this program, and with federal funding we can do that. But the critical missing ingredient all along has been individual property owners and neighbors saying, yes, we want to have a safe parking program in our community, in our neighborhood, in our property. And that's what we need more of. We need the willingness to recognize that Julie's story, her personal story about her life, connects in a way that can empower our community and help more people. It's as simple as that, and it's as vexing and challenging as that, but it's really a great moment to be here with Congressman Carbajal, Supervisor Williams, Susan Rose, Christine, and Julie to share in a celebration and an opportunity to move this issue forward in a really meaningful way. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Greg. In closing, let me just say that the success story of all these programs is really what's needed to allay the concerns that some communities or neighbors of these programs might have. We're a success story. Santa Barbara, of all places, this has happened in our downtown. I don't know how more prominent a location it can get, more that it can get. And I think communities need to look no further than our own community to demonstrate and to be assured that these programs work and they don't have a negative impact on communities. And as a community, we come together to help our fellow men and women and children and families get back on their feet. Let me just say that I have wonderful staff. My district director, Erica Reyes, is here. Jesse Abadi's here. Did all the heavy lifting and moving all this equipment and working with 2nd District staff to put together this event. but the one staff member that really went above and beyond and managed this particular legislation and helping write it, all the research, reaching out, touching base with New Beginnings, reaching out with Susan to join our event, touching base with the county, researching other programs, was Shelby Luce. And I want to recognize her because she took this project on and did an extraordinary job of bringing it to fruition. So Shelby, thank you. And she works in Washington in my office and came out specifically for this, and of course other work in the district, but this in particular for today. So I want to thank you, Shelby, Erica, and Jesse, for your good work. With that, questions? Come on closer, just not too close. We're still in COVID. Susan, you want to come?
How much money is your legislation going to?
It's $5 million over 20 million over 5 years, so $125 million. Grants could be up to $5,000. So if you get a grant for $5,000, that's $5 million. Forgive me, $5 million. That would be $1 million a year up to 5 years, so that there's some sustainability to it as we demonstrate the effectiveness of the program.
And could that money be used to pay property owners for their parking spaces? Because right now, it seems the big problem is you can't get property owners to participate.
Well, we're starting out with public parking lots. Shelby, remind me, does this include private lots? We're trying to make this flexible as well, so that if there are private lots, it should be something that we could work on.
Yep, so the lot can vary. It allows for local governments and non-government, NGOs to be able to apply for the actual funding to run it, and then the money can be used for insurance for the facility. So if we had a church that wanted to hold the program, the money can be used to help pay for that insurance, so if anything were to happen, they'd be taken care of.
Shelby, I assume that's also for a parking lot. If a big shopping center wants to make their parking lot available, we could. Good, thank you.
Are you saying it's insurance is what costs so much? Because I know people way beyond 100 parking not with this program.
It's insurance and costs associated with making the program viable and effective.
Yeah, I think the limiting factor used to be the number of people who were willing to participate here locally, but that has taken a backseat to now the program costs. The only way it works is if you have services for the people there and you have rules that you can enforce. That's what enables property owners to stick with the program, and that costs money.
Well, Christine could tell you about some of those guidelines that I think go to the essence of giving assurances to neighbors and communities. Individuals come in the evening, leave in the morning, and
Sure. So the operational aspects of the program that don't receive funding include things like all of the lots are insured, so every lot owner is added as an additional insured. We provide restroom facilities at each of the lots, and those all have to be maintained. We have outreach workers who monitor the lots nightly. Their mileage is a significant expense, as well as their staff time. We have expenses for things like vehicle repairs, batteries that break down, flat tires, things like that. And then as well as the case management staff who work with them to transition back into housing. So a lot of those operational costs aren't paid for.
Do you foresee a time where you could actually get cars to people, say, living on the Garden Street exit, so that they can be in a car versus in a tent?
Well, we could have a long conversation about that, but the idea would be to get the people in the tents into housing and bypass that step. So that's what we're hoping for.
this is for people in vehicles. Keep that in mind.
What kind of numbers are you seeing here, and what is the demand? I mean, right now you have 150 spaces, 26 lots. If you were to meet the demand right now, how many more would you need?
Well, the structure of safe parking is such that we have lots throughout the city of Santa Barbara, the city of Goleta, and the unincorporated areas in between. And we try to match people to their needs. So, for example, if a family has children in school, we want to find a lot where they can park at night that's adjacent to their children's school. If they work, we want to try to place them in a lot that's adjacent to their home and work, right? And having more lots that are dispersed throughout the area allows us to accommodate those needs, as well as allows us to distribute the impact so that we don't have 100 people in any one parking lot. So the more lots we have, the more we're able to meet those needs and to distribute the impact.
Do you have an idea of how many spaces, however many lots you use, but the demand for spaces based on COVID and what you've seen this year, how many more than the 150 would you need to meet the demand?
Well, that's a fluid number, and it depends on the area that you're speaking about. Right now we have lots in Santa Barbara in particular. We're in need for daytime lots because of the oversized vehicle ordinance. We have very few, and we need at least a dozen more. In particular, it would be nice to be able to have some lots in the harbor, sort of coastal area. We have a lot of clients who work, go to medical appointments and go to school in those areas, and we don't have access to lots. We're also working now with the cities of Lompoc and the city of Carpinteria, and we'll need to find lots in those areas. We'd also like to work with the city of Santa Maria, and we would need to find lots in those areas. There's a process by which we have to go through in addressing the ordinances in each city, and so it's a multi-step process in order for us to get to the point where we can have lots. And what's nice is that safe parking provides the structure and the process for all of those steps.
They just call you if they're in that predicament?
They can call Cassie, our program manager, Cassie Roach, and 805-845-8492.
And what is I'm guessing you might have been a student, Don?
Yeah, I was 16.
So what are the age, can you give me the non-stereotype? What is the age range?
Unfortunately, we're seeing a significant increase in the number of seniors. We've had multiple people in their 90s. We have a lot of people in their 80s. We have a significant number of people in their 70s. The largest growing population and the second majority in terms of demographics in the program are people 65 and older.
One more question.
What's the next step with the bill, and what do you have to do to get the
It's supposed to go to Financial Services Committee, and my hope is that we can be marked up. As you know, every Congress is a 2-year session. Sooner rather than later is my goal. But one, it's bipartisan, and two, I think it's such of a no-brainer program that I think it has a huge chance of making it over the finish line sooner rather than later. And we're hopeful that we can get over the finish line this session and scale this program up. I think the program and the success story of it speaks for itself and sells itself pretty easy.
This session meaning 2 years?
The session of Congress is a 2-year session, but we hope to move it forward this year, but if not this year, early next year. But this year the goal is always to do it the same year that, and if we can't, the next year, as you can imagine, there are thousands of bills that are introduced, and getting them in the pipeline to be marked up is always part of the process. And that's why I have to go do my work day in and day out to fight for this and to remind leadership how important this bill is to our country and my district.
And how hard was it to get them off of the hill?
It was pretty straightforward. I think once we approached his office and told him about it, he expressed a quick interest, shared with him the details, he signed on board. And again, it's always nice when we can make things bipartisan. I strive for that. Over 50% of the bills that I sponsor, I make an effort to make sure are bipartisan, because I think that's what the American people want. That's what people on the Central Coast want. They don't just want us bickering and sponsoring bills. They want us to do things in a way that provides a better chance and shows that we're collaborating. So it's in keeping with the bipartisan guiding principle that I have oftentimes advocated about.
And who's the chair of the committee that you're at?
The chairman chairperson of the financial committee?
It's Congresswoman Waters, Maxine Waters.
Oh, okay.
Maxine Waters from Los Angeles area.
Good one.
And where's your co-author of the bill from?
He's from Northern California.
Yeah, like Nevada City area.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.